So we got sports, a little bit more sports, and then definitely a lot more sports. So that's everything that you can expect to hear about in today's episode with Jovan, but really took us on a deeper dive into his journey into the industry, from how he was able to amass over 10 years of experience to even how Total Sports Live, his now website, got its start. He even recalls back in 2014 to 2016, that 2-year period of applying for over 200 jobs. 200 jobs. And for those of y'all who know about the job process and application process, it can be very humbling, discouraging, everything of the sort. But on top of securing that spot, securing that bag, working his way up, setting that foundation to really be able to do what he is today. But he would be remiss if he didn't pay homage, respect, and appreciation to all those who were able to support him, from friends to family to his girlfriend at the time to now his wife. Total Sports Live is covering all things Philadelphia sports. There is nothing that they shy away from, and he even gives some insight as to some of the leagues and different arenas that they'll be looking to get into as time progresses. So to all my Philadelphians, I won't talk bad about the Eagles anymore because my Giants are not where we need to be. But what I want everyone to do, enjoy episode 161, The Journalism Journey. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Down to Business podcast. Man, big shout out to two people for this one. I'm gonna shout out my cousin, my brother, my dog DJ. Man, he's made a few things work for me, man. From linking me with Ted Lotto to linking me now with Jovan, who I'm sitting down with. To he even just texted me. He said he got some more people for me, so I'm gonna have to bring him on as like a co-host or like a sponsor, part time, something like that. But I want to give another big shout out to my boy Kylan Watson, man. So we went to grad school together. Somebody who I actually saw reposting a lot of content and doing different interviews and podcasts, and he's in the sports niche himself. So I was actually able to kind of inadvertently meet Jovan kind of like through just social media more so. But we were able to kind of chop it up and realize that it is indeed a small world. But I'm very excited to get into this conversation. One, just because obviously I love all things sports. Y'all didn't even know we were talking about sports today, but now y'all do. But two, just because like we're gonna get into some sports betting things, we're gonna get into some different things, and sports betting is actually illegal down here in Florida. So I was very hurt when I realized that I actually had to send my boys some money and stuff like that. They were placing some bets for me on the FanDuels and the DraftKings and all of that because eventually they got my location and I just wasn't able to do it anymore. But nonetheless, always excited for content, always excited to connect with somebody new. So, bro, how you doing today? How's everything on your end?
I'm doing good, man. Glad to be on the show. Like you said, your cousin, told me a lot of great things about the pod and everything you've been doing on your end. So, glad to come on and to chop it up with
Absolutely.
you.
Well, I'm glad that he's spreading a positive message for the pod, man. I'm glad he's giving us some good rapport out there. But all right, so I know that as reluctant as I am to say this, we're gonna have to talk some Philly sports today. I know that we're gonna get some people from your side. I know that we're gonna get some people from my side. I know we're gonna have some people far and few between. And I know we're gonna have some newcomers along the way. Some people who probably know neither one of us, but have definitely just come across the content in some way. So, can you one just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then can you two just tell us what brings you on the Down to Business podcast today?
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm Jovan Alford. I'm currently a content producer at Sport News. I've been in sports journalism for years now, over a decade. It's been a minute. Philadelphia born and raised. Philadelphia sports fan through and through. Which, like you said, like we talking before the show, that's not the greatest of things since you're a New York fan. But yeah, just here on the pod, chop it up, talk about sports, things I've been doing in the ever changing just sports journalism field and industry, sports media in general, just a crazy industry.
Absolutely, without a doubt. So we'll definitely get into that. I'm so glad you said that about the industry. But all right, so you said over a decade that you've really been doing what you're doing. So let's even take it back a little further than that. Where did this really start? Where did the interest in sports come from? Was this something you grew up doing? Did you see other people doing it, siblings, people older than you? Where really did you get your start into the sports world?
Sports, man, sports has been probably a part of my life since as long as I can remember. Probably like since I was like 5. Just my mom, she's like a big sports fan. Like I think that's where I get my passion from when it comes to sports. Like she's the biggest like 4 for 4, sports fan. Minus the hockey, but she'll watch, right? She'll watch, but she was a huge, she still is, a huge influence, in my life and with sports and everything. And for me, that's where kind of like my love for sports happened, especially for, being in Philadelphia, loving the sports teams, the Eagles, the Phillies, Sixers, even when they're good, even when they're bad, you still got, you still got love for them. So it started there. And then for me, it just kind of took off. I used to, when I was younger, I used to, still watch the NFL draft. But when I was younger, I would just watch the NFL draft and I would just have like my notebook and I'll just start like writing down like prospects and players, like, oh, I'm following this guy, I'm following that guy, or I'm doing my own, little mock drafts and things like that. So it kind of like started like off there, and then yeah, we can get more into it. But that's where my love started from, back when I was probably like 5, but who knows? Probably started when I was younger than that, and I just don't
I love
remember.
that though. You were even doing some making your own, like you said, simulations and just predictions. As I feel
Hmm.
like to be so young and to have an interest, most of the time it's just us loving what we do or just wanting to watch it or wanting to
Right.
see it and sometimes not even understanding. But the fact that you even took it a step further and went a little bit more in depth, I love that. All right. So now moving forward, kind of fast forwarding a little bit to where you are now. So how did you really a decade in now? A decade in with this company, with just being in obviously over a decade in sports, but more so with this company. So how did you one really get your start, and then two, walk me through these last 10 years? Like I make a long story long, make a long story short. However, but give me that start to where you are now along that journey.
Yeah, so I would probably say it started in college. In college, I went to LaSalle. So I went to school for communications, but we had to double track in something mass media, and then like I just so happily, my advisor was like, hey, you're like taking classes in journalism, so you should like probably pick that up. And I was like, all right, sure, I guess, because I didn't want to do the marketing thing for me, and PR just for me didn't seem like it was my type of, just my type of vibe. So I was like, sure, I'll take some journalism classes and like kind of see what happens from there. And from there I, grew a love, for sports writing. Just I didn't do like student paper or nothing like that. I did a lot of sports radio, so student radio. So I had like my own radio show, and then on top of that, I was also calling games. So I was doing like LaSalle men's basketball, women's basketball, baseball. Was like a member at the station, and became like general manager like my last year, which was kind of pretty cool. Working my way from like being there freshman year all the way to senior year. And then I want to say like around that 2011 ish time is when I started, thinking about like, okay, I can potentially start like maybe create my own outlet, because 2011, that's like the time of like where sports blogs were like really heavy. Like we're talking like the SB Nations of the world, fan sided I think was still up and coming, but it was still like was very burgeoning. And for me, I was writing for those like type of outlets, right? So I was like contributing, like doing stuff at like fan sided, and I was contributing, doing like stuff for like SB Nation here and there, like more so like a commoner, like on the message board type things. And then I just decided like might as well just start my own website. So from there, I just created my own website on like this basic like Google like blogger platform. It was like super basic. It was just enough to just put something on the screen and like throw some pictures on it and just like boom, let's see what happens from there. I wasn't worried about like analytics or numbers like that. It was just like, no, I just want to write, talk sports, and boom, let's see what happens. And from there, it just kind of like took everything, just kind of took a life of its own. Like I was still like doing like other work for other websites, but I really started becoming comfortable with my own voice and with writing. And I think being able to have my own site really helped. I'd had not only myself doing it, but I had like friends join in, like my one of my friends from like high school, like he came aboard, and he's been like with it like ever since, like so since like 2011 2012, like he's been like part of like every stage of like the evolution with totalsportslive.com. And then your cousin, he he wrote a little something here and there, and he still talks all his Ray Allen posts till this day, talking about I got X amount of views on his Ray Allen post, and I was like, yeah, you did. So he contributed. My now wife, she's my girlfriend at the time, she created the my first logo for the website. So she did that. So it was kind of like really like a homegrown like fun operation. Like I had at that time, like I said, I'm in college, so I have like my brother, like he wasn't into sports, but he was like, yeah, I'll write some soccer stuff because the union had just started, so he was joining. Then Daryl was joining. Then like I said, I had friends from high school and people from Twitter, so it was like really fun operation and just really having fun, just being just people that just enjoy sports talking sports, right? It was a Philadelphia sports centric outlet, but it was still like we can just talk about whatever and do whatever. And then from there, as the site kept growing and things like that, I kept on adding people. So I want to say like 2 3 years 4 years into the fold, created like an internship where it was just like reaching out to like young students just to provide them opportunity. Like it was just so hard. And me knowing me going through school, I was like, yeah, like I don't think I'm gonna be able to like pay people, but if I can provide someone an opportunity just to get their feet wet and kind of like get an opportunity, maybe something will happen. And thankfully, those people have, gone on to do some great things. It's always incredible to see. So I've been doing that. And then eventually I got graduated out of school 2014. Didn't get my first job in journalism until like 2016. So for about 2 years, I'm applying for jobs. I don't got it with me, but I still have like a list of like 200 jobs that I applied to for like 2 years that I kept written down, and landed my first job after I think 'cause I was working in retail. I was working at like Raleigh House, which is like almost like Modell's. So it was like one of those type of stores. So I was working there and then landed an opportunity at the Philadelphia Tribune, which is the oldest African American newspaper in the country. So I got there 2016, got my feet wet, came on as a web coordinator, which is kind of like a real like wide open type of term because like you're focusing on the web on the website, but for me, like I'm so thankful for that opportunity because I who knew it would open up so many doors for me. Like my job obviously was just to maintain the website, keep it updated, throw some stuff on there from like the AP Wire, CNN Wire, like do all that good stuff, social media. But then it just like took off on a life of its own where I was like, hey, can I like write sports like here and there? And he's like, yeah, sure. Like, so I was able to write sports. I think the first story I wrote was like, I think it was Joel Embiid's like debut against the Thunder. So I wrote a story about that, and then wrote an Eagle story about Wendell Smallwood or something like that. And like I said, my wife, who was my girlfriend back then, she had got it framed and everything. So I was doing that. And then I want to say 2016, 2017 came around, still at the Tribune, started really getting into more sports. So, like, really putting a lot of things on my plate, talking about, like handling the sports pages for the actual paper and, working with an esteemed, sports writer who's in 2 Hall of Fames and Don Hunt. He's been a huge help for me and, and was a huge help for me then than he is now. He was working with him, just learning the ins and outs of not only just Philadelphia pro sports, but learn about the rich history of like Philadelphia, like high school sports, basketball, football, and even HBCUs. Like the Tribune's like very big in the HBCUs and HBCU sports, so learning a lot about those and like really getting interested, intrigued with it, was really cool. 2017 when the draft was in Philly, we covered that. So that was like probably one of the biggest moments for me, like ever, like being able to cover the NFL draft, for a big outlet. And then I left there 2018, moved on to the Philadelphia Metro, where I became, a sports editor, which for me, in my eyes, and it still is to this day, was like the pinnacle for me. It's like I've reached my goal of what I wanted to do. And got there, was at the Metro for about a year and a half. I want to say a year and a half, almost. Was a year and a half. It's been a long time. So I was there for about 10 months to a year. I feel like, and then uncertain. A lot of us got laid off because again, instability in the market and just everything happening. So I was unemployed for about a year, which was rough. I'm just trying to get my foot in their feet going, and then landed into sports betting in 2020. I landed in sports betting and fantasy at DraftKings Nation, so that was pretty cool. I didn't, to be honest with you, before then I had never betted on anything in my life. Didn't I knew of sports betting, but again, it wasn't really popular as it is now. Like we're talking 2020, 2021 wasn't as super popular as it is now. So working there really helped me get a firm grasp on writing about fantasy football, fantasy basketball, DFS for baseball, football, basketball. Like get my hands into everything, which kind of helped me when I moved on, to the sporting news, which is another long standing company in like the sports world. And here, just being a content producer, for just sports betting. So now and my scope is like focused more heavily down on the sports betting. So that's like the long, short ish, story. Like I said, I could go into more details about a lot of the different styles, but that's like the shorthanded version of it.
You taught me some things just now. Well, one, I didn't know DJ had an article, so I'm gonna need to come across that Ray Allen.
Yeah.
I need that in my email ASAP. But no, man, I'm really, as somebody who went to undergrad and studied communication, and I also my concentration was journalism. I didn't really like the PR route; it was interpersonal, and then there was another one that just kind of threw me off just a little bit. But then going to Syracuse, getting my master's, broadcast and digital and sports
hmm
communication, I can definitely attest to what you said coming out of school, applying for those jobs and just not getting anything. And I would say
Yep.
my story is a little bit different in two ways. One, I probably didn't hit 200. I was probably very close to 200, but I didn't hit 200. But mine too was also during the pandemic. So it was even once you
Oh
started to get
yeah.
those job offers, jobs couldn't bring you in or jobs couldn't hire you. I had a couple offers rescinded just because they couldn't do new hires. But I say all of that to
hmm
attest to him, people, that yes, this industry, sports, news, whatever way you take it, just media in general, it is very expansive, but it is also very like specific. And I say that
Yep.
to say that a lot of times we have goals and we have, you hear even how Jovan just went through his whole story, and it wasn't really until the latter half of his career that he really got to that editor. And for him, like he said, that was the pinnacle. That was something that he was looking to do. That's what he wanted to do. But you have to think about everything that he did building up to that. Humbling moments, interns, really starting a website just for fun, but having a great community around him to be able to keep it in house, because we often hear that sometimes, well, one, just doing it as a one-man band is very difficult, but two, when you bring people in and everybody may not have the best interest in mind, personalities could clash, conflicts of interest, everything of the sort. But the fact that you had such a supportive group of people around you, from your girlfriend then to now wife to DJ to friends to brother, who even his sports expertise wasn't that high, but he'll write some soccer articles for you. So anything to really get things going. But I also, something I heard you say was that you weren't really concerned about the analytics. You weren't really concerned about the numbers, the views, the visits, the shares. This was fun for you. This was a passion. And I love to hear
hmm
that, because a lot of times that's really how things start. That's really how these household names and things become. They don't come into this just, yo, I need a get rich quick scheme. I need to go viral. I need a one hit wonder. If
Right.
you could really be here today, gone tomorrow. But the fact that you love this,
hmm
the fact that day after day after day, you put that energy and you put that time in and made it happen, and had to move through different places, had to move in different spaces, had to take different roles, had to be oftentimes maybe doing something that you didn't want to do necessarily, or having a title you didn't necessarily like. But that's so real. Something that really humbled me about grad school was that I really came to grad school thinking, okay, I want to be a sports reporter. I'm going to be your next Stephen A. I'm going to be your next Shannon Sharp. I'm going to take some of these news classes. We'll figure it out. But my course is sports. Man, I
Right.
wasn't so, man, sport. They treated sports like an elective in that Syracuse program. It was news, 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 news. It was like, you're
Yep.
not going to touch anywhere near sports if you can't report the news. And for me, hearing,
Yeah.
I took that personal. But as I
hmm
really started to get in, as I really started to learn, report these stories, do different things, write different stuff, talk to different people, I'm like, news is so hard, but it made the sports just that much easier. And it was just like, wow, I
Yep.
never really realized the translation and what it really takes to get into that. But also then
hmm
how once you get into these industries and these niches, we listen to Stephen A's story, how he started as a beat writer, really bottom of the totem pole. And now he had to work his way up. And a lot of people only see the end of the journey, only see him on the
Yep.
different shows now and in different places, but didn't realize that there's a totem pole that you really have to climb. And especially within media,
hmm
even if you know people, the credentials are going to speak for themselves. Those reels are going to speak for themselves. Those portfolios speak for themselves. Those resumes and those cover letters speak for themselves. So I
Yep.
love to hear that even through everything, you were still able to keep eyes on the prize, still able to keep that tunnel vision, still able to get where you are right now to really make that happen. But I also love that you were able to gain so much different experience. And I think that that goes to just show the importance of versatility, the importance of, if you would have
hmm
just stuck with what you were so set on and what you were so gun ho on, it may have taken you more years to really get to where you are. You may not even
Yep.
be in the position that you are today. But the fact that you moved around a little bit, you took the experience here, you even tried to bless it and pay it forward to other people by giving internship opportunities and everything of the sort. That says just a lot about you and the character. So now, Total Sports Live. So somebody visiting
hmm
this website, somebody coming across this page and everything, what can they expect? I understand that it's all things Philly sports, but are these like, is this just like a blog page? Are these articles? I know you talked a little bit about sports betting. Do you guys give information on things? What does really Total Sports look like from top to bottom on daily operations?
Yeah, no, Total Sports Live is pretty much like you said, it's like the home for all Philadelphia sports. So we do like mix in like some different things time to time, anytime there's like some, trending news, something big in the sports world, you got to sprinkle that in a little bit. But yeah, it's the home of, just Philly sports and, mixing in and again, for me, even like I said, creating it, and then like as the years progressed, for me it was just like I said, just giving people opportunities and even giving myself opportunities because like before I even got at the Tribune and at the Metro covering games, I really was able to cover games and stuff through my own outlet. Like I was out here doing it, covering and like not the most glamorous stuff, right? I'm covering like arena football, like, and a lot of people not going to sit here and be like, man, I don't get it. I don't want to cover no arena football. Like that ain't the Sixers, that ain't the Eagles, that ain't the Giants. Like I want to be there, but it's like go looking back on it, that experience helped me so much because I kind of knew how to conduct myself. Like I'm doing this like 2013, 2014. Like I learned how to conduct myself, like coming in, being on time, making sure that you're dressed, like how reporters are dressed, making sure you're doing, those things, and making sure that you're following like the proper media decorum, knowing how to conduct yourself in a press conference, being in those media scrums, like all those things, right? I say all of that to say, that's what kind of, helped Total Sports Live, being able to, cover things that a lot of people wouldn't cover, right? Like Arena Football, Philadelphia Soul, Mad, and I had a other Mad other staff writer, Curtis at the time. They were covering like Temple football. Like we're talking about when Temple football was good. We're talking like PJ Walker, like that era, like covering them. Remember me, um my wife, who was my girlfriend back then, she was with me when we covered Phil, I think it was like national, like the NCAA lacrosse championships down at the link. That was my first time ever at the link as like a fan or just like as whatever, like being there like in that atmosphere. So, being able to cover that, and then, like I said, being able for others to go cover, things like my, best friend Harrison, being able to, to have him, now, being able to, cover like UPenn football, like covering those small, like niche things, like that people don't think, want, not want, but covering those sports and teams that necessarily you don't think like need the sports coverage, but they love that sports coverage just because it's like, hey, we're still a sports team here and there too. So I think for us, after we kind of found our niche at early, like, hey man, we're at the Philadelphia Soul games all the time. Like we're down at UPenn, like last football season. We're down a couple football seasons, down at UPenn. Like we're going to Temple Pro Days. Like we're doing like those little things because a lot of outlets don't have necessarily a lot of time or even the people to dedicate to, those things. So for me, Total Sports Live is just like a microcosm of that, right? Like if we can honestly like if we write about like the Philadelphia Soul whenever they do come back, right? Or we write about like the Philadelphia Stars in the USFL, like to me that means more than writing a trade rumor story on like the Sixers or the Eagles because everybody's doing it, right? Everybody's covering the same thing, and then us adding onto the site. I want to say because the site just got redone last year. Us adding sports betting and DFS because obviously DFS fantasy, that stuff is, it's the way of the sports landscape now. There's no such thing as just a general sports writer. Like you gotta know about DFS and you gotta learn about sports betting, and being able to add that, and being able to add another, great writer to young kid. I think he's going into a sophomore year. I think he might be in his sophomore year. That that me and Harrison's friend, he hooked us up and told us like, hey, yo, this kid like Rowan, he could be, he's into sports and fantasy, and we was like, all right, sure. Like we bring him aboard. Again, for me, just providing an outlet for people just to write about what they want to write about and let them just, do what they want to do and just have fun with it. And for him, having him, not only provide us a presence with fantasy sports, fantasy football, but for him to get those reps and be like, all right, like I'm getting these reps, like I'm writing Like, and I'm the type of person where I'm like kind of more hands off. Like, I don't care what you write, just like I want you to do you. Like, do you have fun? And for him, he was like, yeah, I'm going to write like a weekly waiver report. He was like, all right, say no more. Like, do you? And he did him, had his players, had his stats. Like, he was just killing it. And now I think he's doing like some stuff, over at Fantasy Pros too. So for again, like it's just that's what Total Sports Live is, right? It's Philadelphia sports, a little bit of everything, DFS, fantasy, just it's a whole bunch of stuff. And then we have the podcast on the side of that too that we've been doing for X amount of years too. So it's been fun.
Yeah, y'all may hear him talking like, "Yo, this dude can just go. Like, he good. He ain't never ain't nothing because he got his own podcast. He know how to talk. He know what's going on, y'all." But nah, something that Total Sports Live, as you're talking about it, as you're explaining it, as you're really giving the mission and the mantra behind it, it really makes me think back to grad school once again. We were me and two other ladies. Big shout out to Kayla and big shout out to Isis. We were a part of something called the Women's Sports Update. So every week we would pretty much air a show where we sat down with each other, kind of like round table style,
Mm-hmm.
and really just talked about highlights, all women's sports from lacrosse to
That's
field hockey
good.
to volleyball to basketball to, and it was just for me, it was just amazing because, like you said, it was things that people were not doing. Anybody could talk about the men's basketball team. Anybody could talk about
Talk
the men's
about the football
men's
team, right?
football team, all of that. But who's really talking about the women? And they were competing. When I tell you I'm at some of these games watching, I'm like, yo, like nobody's covering this. Where are all the fans? Like, where are the people at? I got
Mm-hmm.
front row seats, and I'm like, we're talking about this. We're passionate. We're hearing people, and eventually the show really just started to grow because it was something, one, unexplored, but two,
Yep.
it was good content. So
Mm-hmm.
I love to hear that about y'all, how y'all dibble and dabble in a little bit of everything. Because, like you said, everybody could go to the mainstream. Everybody could get those headlines and report on everything. It's nothing like scrolling the page and you see ESPN, and then you see Bleacher Report, and
Yeah.
you see the Barstool, and then you see we can keep going. They're all saying the same thing. Just flip three
Yeah.
words on
Yep.
different pictures, different graphics. It's like wow, like y'all all got the news. So what else is going on? Like what else is happening? And you can really tell where other sites and other places they're so explorative. So the fact that y'all have so much creative control over there, I love it, and I think it even breeds and speaks to the content that y'all put out. Y'all not yes, while everybody wants to hear about the Philly sports, the big stories. What else is going on? What else are some things that I could learn or I could scroll or I could even kind of whoa. I had no idea that's going on. That's the kind of things that when we were giving this show and talking about different things, we were like, some people don't even know the names of these players. Some people don't even know where they play. Some people don't even know how many games they play. Who is who?
Mm-hmm.
Look at these prospects. Everything they're getting looked at going to the league just the same. So I love that y'all are highlighting so many untouched and untapped into niches and industries. So I want to even now take it a step further. So with everything that Total Sports does right now, with everything that y'all have done, with everything that even y'all are probably in talks of right now, without really spoiling anything or without giving away too much, is there any avenue that y'all haven't tapped into yet that is in the works as we kind of continue to move through this year and almost get to the end? Is there anything that y'all are thinking of maybe debuting, anything that y'all want to bring, any feedback that y'all might have even got from like y'all audience or y'all viewership that y'all are heavily considering changing or adding to?
I think for us, I think for us, we're trying. I think we want to. We're if the Arena Football League does come back, I think that's something we're going to get back into because, like, beyond, contrary, when arena football was really heavy, like late, 2010 era, we were doing it heavy. Like my guy Harrison Brown, like you want to talk about like I lean on him, right? He's younger than me. Like I met Harrison when I was in 2013. He had to be like 11, 12, 13 years old, like covering sports. Like he's been doing it like as long as I am me, but at like a super younger age. So I think we want to get back into, covering arena football if it does come back because he, we had our own like obviously we had like our own like we had totalsportslive.com and back in the day we used to like have like arena football like free agents tracker when like free agency was going on because nobody else is like thinking about this stuff. But it was like so cool because like people were like hitting us up on like Twitter, and this is like when Twitter was like first happening, like yo, like y'all only people that's like doing this stuff. And it was like, all right, cool. And then we just, decided like, hey, we're gonna like podcast about the league. And like for us that like opened up so many different avenues, especially because of Harrison. Like he, is so connected with guys and players and stuff in the league that we were getting like guys coming on, talking about this week's game. Like we've had like a lot of people like we had like Warren Smith on, who's like an indoor football quarterback, legend in my eyes, just because how long he's been playing and been doing it at a high level. We had Donovan Morgan on the pod, which was that was a funny episode because like there was some stuff going on with like the organization he was on, and somehow like our podcast like got back to like the head coach or something like that. So it was like we were like low key like making like little head waves and things like that. We were having fun doing it because not because we were reporting on the league, because we were like we're fans of the league, like we're fans of the sport. So I think for us, that's definitely I think something that we're going to get back into again if they come back. Obviously they throwing it out there like, hey, we're coming back, just don't know when. Like if they come back, definitely expect us, to definitely have a footprint in it. We'll bring back our high motion podcast, which we call it, because in arena football, there's always someone running in motion. So that's the high man in motion. So we'll definitely be hopefully bringing that. We'll definitely be bringing that back soon. And then that's probably the only thing off the top of my head I can really think about, and just continuing just to grow. It's so hard. So hard running a site or just having a podcast thing like that, like because you're always trying to find ways to be creative, not do what everybody else is doing, but still having fun with it at the end of the day, right? So we're still going to be pumping out podcasts as we especially as we get closer to fantasy football season. Me, Harrison, and our other friend Keaton, last year we decided that we were going to do just a fantasy football podcast every week. So like once a week we all got together on like StreamYard and just chopped it up, talk about fantasy, anytime touchdown plays, and like we were having fun when it was us again, and just came out organically. It just like happened. Like we decided we're just going to do it one week, and then it just kept on going for like the rest of the football season. So definitely with football season coming back, I'm definitely going to get into those things, and then just whatever else happens along the way, we'll just have fun with it.
And I love that you keep emphasizing that F word, man, fun. I don't know which word y'all thought I was about to say, but yeah, fun, man. I think that that's so important because, bro, like I just feel like so, especially in this day and age, man. If you're not having fun with your craft, with your job, with your interest, with your hobby, with your pet, you shouldn't wake up every day just dreading it or just feeling like you have to do it. No, have fun with this. Yes, there are certain things that bills just have to get paid. Rent is due.
Yeah.
Everything, the responsibilities and everything like that. But do not drag yourself through something that you dread or that you just don't like or that's really not for you. So the fact that while so much has changed, while you've had to adapt, adjust, adopt to so much, at the end of the day, that fun still just keeps going. It still just keeps happening. So at this stage in the game,
Mm-hmm.
how do you develop your content? Like, are you somebody like I think about the Wojs who are probably always on their phone? They always something they always been doing. I've been watching it weekly. Is they've been releasing Shams' screen time, and his screen time is absurd right now. So, like, where are you getting your? Are you do you just have trusted and vetted places and resources that you just get your information from? Is your phone always going off? Do you just have notifications everywhere? What does that really look like for you? For because I know too that can be something that I tell people all the time. If you're on my IG live or if you just know me listening to this, you can attest to this. I keep my phone on do not disturb a lot, just because like
Right.
it's not, people try to be funny. Oh, Mr. Pot. No, it's really not a popularity thing, but it's just between emails, between notifications from
Mm-hmm.
two pages, not just one. Then between personal, then between just me wanting to. I like to play games on my phone sometimes. So sometimes I don't want to get disturbed in the
Right.
night, but it's a lot happening. It's a lot coming. A lot of notifications. An app for this, app for that. Sometimes my Amber Alerts are going off. Florida is crazy. Something always going on down here. So for you personally, how do you really keep everything in front of you? How do you keep everything together? And how do you ultimately get your content to be able to curate it and put it out?
Yeah, no, for me, it's definitely like you said, you're definitely checking the Twitters, right? Especially when it's certain during times of the year, right? When we're talking NBA free agency, NFL free agency, trade deadlines, NBA, even baseball trade deadline, which is coming up, which we always focus on. You're always you're checking your phone, you're checking Twitter, you're doing those things. Even with I would say you're checking Twitter a ton. But even I do it the old school way, right? I have my like list of my list of sites that I go through. So realgm.com, Roto World, which is like changed like three different names. I definitely check Roto World because if you want like your news and just short blurbs of player headlines, like you'll definitely get it there. So I'm talking like Roto World, hoops rumors, MLB trade rumors, pro football rumors, NFL trade rumors. So like I have like this Rolodex of sites that like I'll always check through. Like, okay, let's see what them talking about. Because again, and I even see it with those sites, right? It's so hard to keep up with the constant like information flow because you can't get everything. It doesn't matter who you are. Like you can't get everything. You can't catch everything. So for me, that's where I like try to like in addition to Twitter, like I always like to check those sites just to see what everybody's talking about, the NFL.coms, the MLB.coms as well. And even, with me working at, sporting news, learning more about Google Trends and seeing like, okay, like what's trending like on Google, like what are the top like 20 or so trending things, and learning how to read that a little bit more, typing in like, oh, LeBron is trending or Jalen Hurts is trending after a big game, like what is everybody talking about, and like using like those trends to kind of help like curate like different stories outside of just the baseline of like somebody got signed or somebody got traded, like taking it a step further, like who, what, when, where, like why did he get traded, or like how does this affect the team, or like doing things like that. So using Twitter, using those sites, and then obviously looking at Google Trends to kind of see what the internet is searching for, the algorithm is pulling up. As those are the things that I kind of look through and search through.
I know a couple of my boys gonna be rewinding that part. They need to add to their Rolodex too, because you just said a couple of sites I ain't heard of. So I'm gonna have to add my wall just the same. I love that. But no, you're absolutely right. It's so much happening, so much going on that you're not gonna catch everything. Even the people who we're getting the news from, they're not catching everything. The
Right.
trending part. I, I will definitely say that, yeah, if you do some clicking arounds or if you just have your trusted and your vetted, I think that will make your job a lot more easier. Okay, to shift over a little bit because I'm very jealous of this next part, and I hate that Florida cannot stand sports betting, and I hate that. I feel like it was illegal for like 2 weeks when I was down here, and now all of a sudden we have to take alternate routes here. I'm not about to put those on the podcast, but we have to make some things happen. But for what you guys do, for your involvement outside of Total Sports with Total Sports, does Total Sports at all really get involved with sports betting? Is that something that you do kind of to the side? Is that something that y'all are is that like a different type of avenue or niche? What is really your involvement or even Total Sports involvement when it comes to just betting itself, if at all?
Total Sports Live with betting, we don't do it a ton because obviously that's more so me, just because not everybody understands it, but not everybody really like have the care for it. Like obviously, like how I do and how I look at those things. So for me, like my betting stuff is really like my betting stuff is predominantly really at Sporting News, where I'm a content producer there. So I do like a lot of sports betting stuff. So whatever's in the flow, of whatever the season is, I'm writing, previews and picks and futures bets and all those things. And even at FTN where I'm at, where I do some side work too, ftnbets.com, where I break down, college football and previews and all those things, giving out picks and things like that. So for me, that's kind of where the sports, for me, the sports betting lane is at. Like, trust me, I do wish, I could, take some time out of my day to be like, all right, let me throw a little betting stuff here. And I have, I mean, last year I did a what was that game? Celebration Bowl. I did a Celebration Bowl betting preview because I was like, again, no, I looked it up on Google. I'm like, nobody's not really talking about this, and it's a big game, man. We got North Carolina Central, we got Jackson State, we got Dion Shador, like trying to win their first one, second year. I was like, yo, I got to put something on and write something about it, even if it only gets like one click or one view or one share, like it don't matter, because like for me that was intriguing, and I was like, nobody else is talking about it, and I'm pretty sure there's somebody's betting on it. Like not everybody's betting on just the NFL, NBA, like there's so many things to bet on in sports. Like it's kind of ridiculous, and it kind of can like have your head spinning a little bit. But yeah, that's kind of where I do like a lot of my sports betting stuff. Sport news, which is full time, and doing some stuff over at FTN, and then just personally, just having my own set of like sites and stuff that I go to like run my numbers to make sure I'm picking the right props and all those good things.
Man, okay, I like that. I'm gonna have to tap in with y'all boys because as DJ, I was definitely I was BSing on the best, but it was look, man, we got to go through hoops and hurdles out here just to get a
Well,
bet or
Florida,
just to get some
Florida,
fun.
y'all actually got it good a little bit. Actually, y'all
Like,
got the prize picks and the underdog fantasy.
oh well,
I
yeah,
I
well
don't even
that
have
yeah,
I don't
I
even
was
have that. Like I wish I had that.
I'm not gonna lie. Prize picks is fire though. I would definitely, as much as I'll down this a little bit, Prize Picks is most definitely fire. So, depending on how you answer this next question, I may have to end the interview abruptly and just cut you off. I may just let it play through. So I'm gonna just preface it with that, and please just answer wisely. So NFC East, I'm a Giants fan. You're an Eagles fan. Give me the prediction for the year. What's the standings going to look like?
What's the standings going to look like? I mean, if we want to be
Just out of curiosity.
if we want to be honest, I feel like the NFC East is probably one of the best divisions in the NFL, like bar none. Like even down to the Commanders, I feel like the Commanders are going to be good this year. Eric Bieniemy is now the OC there, and assistant head coach. I think he's going to take that offense to new heights. Regardless if it's Jacoby Brissett or Sam Howell at quarterback, like they're gonna be scary with those weapons that they got, man. I mean, Dallas is always gonna be there. Like, I think really like obviously I think Washington is gonna be four, but like one, two, three can go in like a whole like range of like just what could happen, right? Like I'm gonna put New York at three. And it's not because I don't like New York, right? I like defensively, I think Wink Martindale, yo man, Wink Martindale has those guys playing. Like you play against that Giants defense, like you're gonna be getting the whole kitchen sink thrown at them. Like you're talking, you got Dexter Lawrence on the front line, you got Leonard Williams, you got Kayvon Thibodeau, who a lot of people I think was down on his rookie year beginning, but that second half he turned up and really played that Washington game last season on Sunday night. He reminded everybody why he was like a top five pick. So I'm going to put New York at three only because of the Daniel Jones factor. I don't know what Danny Dimes are going to see. If Danny Dimes can continue, and I don't even like calling him Danny Dimes, if Daniel Jones can elevate and be more of a playmaker in the passing game, because we know he can do it on the ground. Like we saw him, especially in the playoff game against the Vikings. I don't think none of us saw that happening, but he did it. Like if he can continue to take that next step and level and growth, then I think the Giants could be something to mess with. I think even at three, the Giants could sneak in again as like a wild card team. Number two, Number two, I'm going to say number two. I'm going to say Dallas. I'm going to give it to Dallas again. Dallas is just going to be. We know what they got defensively. All three levels they stack. There's going to be what can they do offensively? Like can Dak Prescott not have those turnovers? Because last season I feel like he was throwing an interception a game. It was an interception a game. He was throwing. So I want to see how they do. Obviously, wide receiver, they upgraded. They finally got a number two because they didn't want to say it out loud, but they definitely missed Amari Cooper last year. Like they didn't want to say it, but it was noticeable. So you add Brandon Cooks with CD and hopefully Jalen Tolbert. They got Gallup still, Cavante Turpin. Like hopefully if Dak plays turnover free football and limits those mistakes, they should be okay. Running game, I'm a little concerned though because there's no Zeke. They got Tony Pollard. I like Tony Pollard. If you had Tony Pollard in fantasy, you would cook it. Like Tony Pollard was good, but I don't know. And number one, I'm going to put the Eagles, not even on no bias thing, just because they are the defending champions. And again, I'm saying the Eagles won, but we know in this division, it's hard for the last year's team to end up and repeat as division champions because it's so tight. For the Eagles, it's just going to be, can you continue to stay healthy? And what can you do? What can you do to build off of last season, shocking just performance all season because nobody I think expected the Eagles to take that leap. I think it was more so they exceeded expectations. Like I personally had the Eagles last year as, yeah, it'll be a playoff team. They'll get to, the divisional round, they'll be there. I don't think they're going to be NFC title bound. Obviously, they proved all of us wrong and got there and got to the Super Bowl. So they opened up that window early. And as long as you have Jalen Hurts, and he continues to have, if you have another MVP season, then Eagles could be one. But like I said, man, one, two, three, literally, I could see a scenario where every team is like one game behind each other. Like I think it's going to be that. I think it's going to be that close because all of these teams are good and they all have very good head coaches and coordinators.
Hey man, can y'all tell? Can y'all tell he likes sports? That was very thorough. I'm not gonna lie. Like even as a Giants fan, I hear you. Just because one I watched last year, and I think last year was so indicative of just what our division is. It is the most. I used to tell people all the time, like because the Giants were going through quite a spell, but we are the most competitive division against each other. Like we could have a terrible season, meaning we lose every outside the conference game. But when the Giants play Eagles
Yep.
or Cowboys or Commanders, whenever you see any of those division matchups, yo, those are some of the most entertaining games you'll ever watch. And I think last year really showed we were neck and neck at the division
Hmm.
trying to figure out who was losing on who was going to take
Yep.
the wild card, who was going to do this, who was going to do that. So, and I think too, the biggest thing about your analysis, I think it just bars health. I agree with you honestly through and through. And I think it's a long
Yep.
season now. And I think it really just depends on the help. But on paper, no, the Eagles, man, I've been hearing it from all my boys. The Eagles are stacked, and I hate to really say that. I may have to edit that part out. Yeah, we may just have to skip over that part. But the Eagles are stacked, bro. And it's just like, to hear that, even like you said, the Dallas is just going to be Dallas, and it really does depend on that offense because I think the defense is there. New York, yeah, I think our defense is solidified. I was never really a fan of Daniel Jones. I'm not really a fan of Duke football in general, so that's just different for me. But I'm gonna take what it is. And the Commanders, man, I always just put them at the bottom because I feel like they start so well. They have so much talent. They have so much just potential. And each year, something just happens. One injury here,
Yeah.
one injury there. Controversy, coaches, the back office. It's just too much with them. So, all right, we don't have to cut the interview. We don't got to end it. We don't got to stop it. I'm in agreement, y'all. We will see 1, 2, 3, 4. We got it mapped up. So we're gonna follow up at the end of the season. We're gonna see what's kind of going on. All right, now I'm hearing that Total Sports does a lot. I'm hearing that you do a lot. I'm hearing that even too with for what you guys do, you're always looking for things that are unorthodox, or you're kind of thinking about
Hmm.
what's next, or what's going to happen, or what's coming back, or anything like that. For people tapping in, for people out there, for people kind of coming across this episode, coming across the website, coming across anything, is there any way directly for people to get involved, for people to kind of help out? What if somebody said, hey, I'm really trying? What if maybe we have some high schoolers listening, or maybe some people early on in college, or maybe some people out of college just looking for different experience or just different things? What would it, if anything, are there any opportunities within Total Sports? Are there any ways for people to help out, get involved, submit
Oh
feedback,
yeah,
anything like
definitely.
that?
There's always ways for people to submit feedback, or even if they want to, contribute on the website. There's obviously you can follow us on Twitter at Total Sports Live, and even you can reach out to me at Jovan10. I'm pretty, reachable on Twitter. That you can, shoot a DM or hit a tweet, saying you want to reach out. And I'm pretty sure there's a contact page on the website on TotalSportsLive.com where people can, tap in and check in, if they want to leave feedback or you know, pitch an idea, or like I say, even want to, contribute some things here and there, right? If you want to write a quick piece, that's fine with me. Like I'm all, open. Like I said, I'm not one of the more stickler people when it comes to like I want this idea, I want that idea, like whatever like you want to talk about, as long as it's not nothing too crazy, like out of pocket. Like if you're not out of pocket, then you good.
Hey, that's fair. That's very fair, y'all. So look, all my people in the area and everybody, I know I got a lot of Philly fanatics on this podcast. So don't act like I'm crazy. All that rah 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 that you give me throughout the year. Let's put the energy into Total Sports Live. Let's really take this thing to the next best thing. But ultimately, I feel like the biggest thing here, like he's been saying, like I've been saying, we want to just have fun with this. So I know you kind of gave the Twitter the information like that, but I always end the episode with everybody kind of just giving everything. Before we do that, do you feel like there's anything here that we haven't touched on? Even any last words that you may want to leave for other business owners, entrepreneurs out there, people trying to immerse and have that breakthrough in the media and the sports industry? Anything that you want to leave the people with?
um I think I would tell people, even though the sports media industry sometimes look very grim, or even just the news industry, journalism industry looks a lot of grim, a lot of times with layoffs and, AI getting involved in writing stories. Like, don't let that discourage you from what you want to do. Always look to create, always look to create for self, right? Always have that platform where you want to do something. If that, if you want to write, right? Nobody says you have to start a website, because that's hard, right? That's really hard work. But we have other great avenues and platforms, which, one of my friends, Harrison, who like does stuff, he wrote stuff on the site and, helps out with the podcast. He, branched out, started his own newsletter. Like we're seeing like a rise in newsletter. So if you don't, if you want to, get out there and write, nobody said you have to start your own website, but hey, maybe you want to start your own newsletter and kind of grow your own following, grow your, own brand. So you can do that. If you're into audio and video, podcasting, YouTube, like that's like such like I think the greatest things like about the time that we're in. Like granted, there's a lot of, BS and social media, all different types of apps out there, but we live in a time where like if you're coming out of school, I feel like there's so much at your fingertips that you can do to, help create and enhance like your own brand to the point where it's like, all right, like I didn't get this internship, but like I'm not going to let that stop me from doing what I want to do because I can still find a way to go out and do it. And it's all about, again, it's just all about having fun. Like when you don't, and I tell people all the time that do things, have their own stuff. I always tell them like, if you're not having fun at the end of the day, then like, why are you doing it? Like, if you're not having fun, then if you're not having fun, and it starts becoming a job on the top of you already, if on the top of you already having a full time job, then you're not doing it right. So for me, it's just always look to create, have fun with it, and just create. Like I said, there's so many different platforms out here where you can just do whatever. Like it's easy to start a YouTube page, right? It's to create a video, to start a podcast, right? We got so many different options. We didn't have back when I was doing podcasting back in 2010. Like it was out here calling on Blog Talk Radio. You had to like dial the phone number to do it. Now we have the Zencasters and the StreamYards and like so many things now where you can do it and you can buy a mic and do all these things. So for me, it's like I said, it's just about having fun and just go out there and create because you just never know who's watching and you never know how that might help you to your next goal and your next opportunity.
And he's living it, y'all. He's really a testament to everything that he's just said from the time this interview started until now. From starting something and not really knowing what's going to come of it, but starting something and ultimately making sure that every day, every hour, every post, every person, we're going to have fun with this and we're going to move. And as you can see now, this really turned into an in-house operation and now it's going to become the household name. So, Jovan, man, I thank you, bro. Obviously, I got to give another shout out to DJ, man, for connecting us. But it's crazy that we were low key already
Right.
connected and didn't even really realize it. A matter of a puzzle piece incoming. So, but it also really just goes to show you just how small the world really is, and just how, even though it seems expansive, sports media, it all really comes down
Yep.
to the same thing. There's a lot of just different, there's a lot of different sites, a lot of things to add to that Rolodex. So, no, we will definitely. I'm sure that even after this episode, I'm going to have some people tapping. I'm going to have some people reaching out. I'm going to be reaching out because, like I said, I need to figure out what we doing, what we got going on. The season is upcoming. Football is near. I'm very excited for it, but I love to see everything that you're doing. I love the unorthodox approach that you take towards the content creation and just putting things out there for people. And I think that that definitely is inspiring to others. It's inspiring to people who feel like they have to have the next best thing or feel like if they don't have that top headline,
Yeah.
then
It's
it's over.
not.
No, you talk about something that nobody had an idea about. And if it gets 2 shares, oh well. If did you have fun with it?
Exactly.
Did you like that? Did you
Exactly.
agree with it? And that's all that matters at the end of the day. That passion is undeniable. So to everybody out there who continuously taps in, we appreciate you. We love y'all. This has been another episode of the Down to Business podcast. Here with Tamar Turner.